All right, people of faith, let's take another walk. I want to talk about dreams, visions, and mental stability or sobriety. Mental sobriety. If the mind is diseased, it is without Jesus. It doesn't matter who you are or what you believe. This is not my belief. This is just a general statement, a consensus on every person, how we are affected by what Jesus did over 2100 years ago. Jesus affected the airways. Let's say, for example, if a person has a bad day, they're not having a bad day physically, they're having a bad day from their soul area. If your soul is in trouble or troubled, it would affect how you mobilize. What Jesus gave us is a breathalizer, like a machine to the soul. He enables us to breathe. If the person utilized that or access that gateway or not, it is accessible to the just and the unjust. The just is the ones that believe, so they constantly go to him and stay with him for this I want to say breathalyzer. And those who are unjust, they just don't believe that he has or he is existence. But what he did covers the just as well as the unjust. Let's take it a little step further. Let's talk about dreams. When a person lay down and go to sleep, their soul goes into a dimension where the body is not welcome. If you notice, you really don't have a body, but you have a body. If you do have a body, it's sort of like invisible, so to speak, because you are in another dimension. On the outside world, if you're not making noises, or if you don't have a pulse, they would say that you are deemed dead. That means the actual soul and the spirit has left the body. But when you sleep, the soul and your spirit is still in the body. This what I guess can. Not because I guess can. This is the area where the dream is. Depending on where your spirit, if your spirit is broken or not, before you lay down, before the body physically lay down, it would affect the soul. If the spirit is broken or discarded or separated, let's say from God's perfect will, which is his love, the soul will go to parts. It may go to hell, or it may go into heaven. Hell is, if a person, let's go back to the sobriety of the mind. If a person is going through torment, don't have peace in their mind, they are in hell. Their soul is in hell. A person said, like, well, I'm not in hell because I'm physically on the earth. No, your physical body just give you access to this realm, to this reality. That's all it does. And Your body can't go anywhere else. It's not permitted to go into the mind, the soulish area, or the spirit area. It is only in this realm where it's physical. So if the spirit is separated from God's perfect will, which is love, God's perfect will is love. Or let me say it this way, love is God's perfect will. If the soul, the soul consists of these 5 components: the mind, the will, the emotion, the intellect, and the imagination. And if those 5 components are separated from love, individually or collectively, the soul is going to enter hell. And to say if that spirit is not connected to God's perfect will, it's going to affect the soul. So you may lay down, or put it like this, let me say it this way. You know, the things that, that a nutritionist or a doctor may, or a dietitian or whoever may give, I guess, a proper food dieting or measurements of what to eat, what not to eat. We eat, or we have a craving or a taste or a lust for certain foods based upon our soul. So if the spirit is not connected to God's perfect will, it's going to alter how the soul, what goes into the soul. This goes with what we hear, what we want to look at, what we want to. It affects the spiritual 5 senses. What we want to smell, what we want to taste, what we want to touch. It affects all that. And what you physically do is actually late. That's just the expression of carrying out what you're doing to your soul. Now, the body itself has a consciousness. It is in debt to sin. It is in debt to disobey God. It's in debt to be in disorder to God. It's in debt to be disconnected to God. So the body has thoughts of its own. Look at it this way. If the spirit, we are a spirit, we have a soul, and we live in a body. If the spirit is not connected to God's perfect will, which is love, if love is not connected to our spirit, where it's perfected our spirit, our soul is going to be in the hands of the body. And if our soul is in the hand of the body, it's going to constantly do things to be in harm's way. So this is when we will lay down on decisions based upon how we feel of the body. The body tells the soul, it's like the body is the puppet master, and the soul has the soul on strings. So when a person have like a certain craving for stuff that you shouldn't have, or certain you shouldn't touch, certain things you shouldn't be around, the body is like the puppet master, and it's telling you, it's like you don't have a control. So we will say the devil made me do it. The devil has access to the soul. I mean, he has access to the body. The body is dead to sin. He's the puppet master to the body. But if the person, which they have a spirit, if they choose not to allow that spirit to connect to God, that soul, their mind, their will, their emotion, their intellect, and their imagination will be controlled or mastered by the body. When a person thinks they are their body, the spirit is separated from love. When a person doesn't think that they are their body, they think they're higher than their body, their soul is connected to love. I mean, their spirit is connected to love. When a person thinks highly of themselves, their spirit is connected to fear. How can I say it like this? Let's go to the vision part. So, like, if you're sitting still and you have a vision of this, it's not a vision. Is not like it's having a dream, but it's not having a dream, and it's not like having a mind that's gone somewhere else. I mean, well, let me say it this way: a vision is separated from a dream from this aspect. You have a physical body. You are in control, or I mean, you are stationed inside. You are still conscious. There you go. Let me use it that way. You are conscious of your physical body. Yet your soul can go somewhere else. It's like you at two places at once. That's when you're like having a vision. But like when you have a dream, it's just one place. So a person may say, what about sleepwalking? Sleepwalking is basically you have a it's like you walking out your dream, or you walking out your I'm sorry, not dream. You walking out your vision. You're inside that dimension of the other side of you. What I'm trying to say is humanity is built on what they allow to come in. We have there's places where God can't enter inside of us because we'll block it off. But that don't stop us from traveling to hell. So let's go back to this. Go back to the sleepwalking. You actually sleep, but you gain control of yourself physically. So in other words, your soul is somewhere else, but you are in control of your body. And your body is allowed to go in this other dimension. But it's amazing though, when you're sleepwalking in comparison to regular walking, or physically walking, let me say it that way. Physically walking, you are aware of the five physical senses that's all around you. The allure that's around you. You are you are in oneness with it, where you can see everything around you, and you're walking physically. But sleepwalking is that you're I don't want to say partial aware, but I would say you're not 100%. You're 100% conscious of your surroundings, and that's based upon the remembrance of where you are in the spirit realm. It's I won't say it's confusing to try to figure out or try to explain, but if you have experienced sleepwalking, you can see the difference of the two realities: sleepwalking and physically regular walking. Some people say it was conscious or subconscious, and so forth. And we can go in multiple places. We can do multiple things with our soul, our mind, our will, our emotion, our intellect, and our imagination. When the Bible speaks about there should be weeping and gnashing of teeth until like when they are in the lake of fire, think about it like this. We can experience hell on the earth. It's not permanent though. It's only permanent if we choose to stay in I want to say in separation from God, God's perfect will. If we stay in separation from God's perfect will, we can experience all of our days in hell on earth. Notice, on earth. There's like, on earth, you are allowed to go to a certain place. Earth has its own, like, atmosphere. Heaven has its own atmosphere. And like when you go to a dream, it has its own atmosphere. Let's say when you're sleepwalking, that has its own atmosphere. When you're having vision, that has its own atmosphere. When you're daydreaming, you have your own it's a different atmosphere. So you're talking about where the soul can travel multiple dimensions and multiple places. And then you can experience and remember all those different places. And then you can come to this dimension, this atmosphere, this physical atmosphere, and you could talk about it, where you have been. It's almost equivalent to a person traveling to, like, let's say, different countries, and you get different variations of intellect, you get different variations of customs, and you can actually take that, bring that to incorporate that, and carry that with you wherever you go. It's like that. It's like your soul can go multiple places. What Jesus did was that he gave us the access, like a bridge or a gate. He opened up a gate that our soul can breathe. He provided like a lifeline to the spirit, because more likely, if the soul can't breathe, the spirit has been broken or decimated. We could say from truth, from peace, from hope, from joy, from faith, ultimately, definitely from love. What he gives us is a gateway to reconnect us back to that. This is where the scripture talks about how we are adopted to God, because we were decimated. We were separated from God. Our soul was in captivity to Satan's will, his dimension. If our spirit is not connected to God, we have a gateway. No, we have, let me say, a umbilical cord that's connected to Satan's reality. And he could take us where he wants to take us. He would take us wherever he is, or what his world is. That world has no stability. It has no sobriety. It has no, let me see, the constructs of his reality is definitely unbalanced. You don't know what you're going to get with him. And that's at every given moment. You don't know what you're going to get. So how can the mind ever have peace with that? But see, if Jesus is allowed to connect, if the soul connects their spirit to Jesus' spirit, they get sobriety in their soul. They get balance in their soul. They get stability in their soul. They get this foundation is a definite assurance that you know where you're going inside your soul, inside your mind, your will, your emotion, intellect, and imagination. Remember, with Satan on the opposite side of that, you have no idea what's going to happen. That's not down the road. That's instantly that you're inside his world. Let's say, like, if God's rule is don't have premarital sex, right? And let's say hypothetically I have premarital sex, regardless if it was through, imaginational thoughts, if it was through visual thoughts, it was actually through spiritual thoughts, it was actually through physical, actual manifestations. It doesn't matter. God told us to stay away from it. Premarital sex. So that would be me with these options to think about being with somebody who's not my wife, or physically engage into that, premeditating that, or conjure up like thoughts in my mind. Just like spiritual connections, connecting to stuff that is sex driven or premarital sex driven. Let me say it that way. If God told me to stay away from premarital sex, he meant all of it in its totality. He's not just saying one particular area. Because this is what creates inside the soul like a separation from love. The moment you enter into this area, this is Satan's domain. Imagine a tree and it has different limbs on it, have different variations of fruit. You may have cantaloupe, you may have antelope, you may have strawberries, you may have cherries, so forth. You have different variations of fruits on this one tree. So this tree would definitely fulfill all your desires, for fruits or veggies, or even just this not veggies, but fruits and different variations of this an appetite, or this something to eat from. Okay. That tree looks good to eat, so you can freely eat of it. Now imagine that tree that is good to eat because you see all the fruits, all the stuff that is edible. But they turn to something else and it's not as edible. This is what Satan has the capacity to do. He can turn to something that looks good, but it instantly turns. Instantly. There's not a time factor that can determine the amount of transformation that it will become. We would say, like, for example, the moment of a blink of an eye, it changes real quick without physical notice. So if the soul is distracted on, let's say, the outskirts of it. Let's say if you have a banana and the banana has spots on the peeling. If we're focused on that, we won't know what's going on the inside. But we would judge the outside. We would judge the inside, but based upon the outside, right? So, but if a person is hungry, it doesn't matter what the outside look, they're going to eat it because they're hungry. So once we get into Satan's territory, we are inside his dimension where he can take our soul anywhere. And it's going to be on a ride of instantaneous reactions of how he so choose to play with your soul. If God told us to stay away from premarital sex, it's because premarital sex is not God's domain. That's not his. He didn't create it. Satan created that, and he wants to stay away from it because it's going to take your soul into an unbalanced, unsober, unsober, or no stability, no sobriety. It's going to be. It's like a person experienced motion sickness. There's going to be constant torment with the soul. There's not going to be no peace with it. Now, when you looked at that fruit, that tree, and had all the variations of fruits on it, this is the blessed tree ever because it has everything on it. But soon you look at the tree and consider the tree an option to eat from. You are entered that dimension of that tree. So Satan would appear as, what the Bible scripture would say, as an angel of light, a wolf in sheep's clothing. He would appear in different variations to entrap the good, to deceive the very elect. Thank you, Holy Ghost. Once you're in that dimension, your soul is in that dimension. Now that's where Jesus becomes the breathalyzer. Without the soul being able to breathe God's oxygen or God's atmosphere, which will be his perfect will, going back to the love, God's love is his perfect will. If the soul is not allowed to breathe that, or is let's say it's separated from that, the soul can't breathe. This is how the person wants a vacation. But yet you're on the vacation, you can't really fully 100% enjoy it. Let's say, for example, you're on the vacation and you are enjoying the freedom in your mind. Your mind is liberated. It has tranquility. That means the place that you are has a stronger, it has a stronger atmosphere than the atmosphere that's actually in your soul. And it's so strong, it actually persuaded you or convinced you to allow the atmosphere where you're at to come inside your soul. The only thing about it is, it's not 100% assured, because at some point you have to disconnect from that atmosphere. Either the thought to go back to your physical atmosphere and stay away from the mind or the mental atmosphere of torment. At some point, the vacation is not a vacation. This is when we get to the point where we will say, there's not enough. I wish I had more time on the vacation. It was short. It was this. Because your soul wasn't able to grasp all of the free air to the soul. I mean, it wasn't able to take in all the peace. It wants more. It wants more. So now your soul goes back to an atmosphere that's toxic. Goes back to an atmosphere that is unwelcoming of love. When a person goes on a vacation, the vacation or the place of residency is actually welcoming their spirit. Is actually welcome it to infuse the spirits that's at that location into that person's soul, or is in welcoming because the spirit is one of the same, and then it's like it needs your spirit, we would call it vibrations, but it would need your life that's inside your soul to fulfill the place of the vacation, the atmosphere of the vacation. So what's inside of you is a necessity to the atmosphere of where you're going. But that's when we have a clean consciousness, or we have that's when we have a clean soul. The vacation needs us. When we need a vacation is when the soul is so toxic of torment or tormentable spirits, it needs a clean, fresh air, a different environment, a different atmosphere. It can't breathe. See, here's the thing. That's why it's not 100% when you go on a vacation, because at some point you have to disconnect from the atmosphere of the vacation. And you start to process the things what you have to do in the other, like atmosphere. You start thinking about the atmosphere of the responsibility, start thinking the atmosphere of the nuances of whatever, the rigmarole of this or this is this. And so your soul goes from a state of being able to breathe to all of a sudden it's being choked. So how does a person change or create? How about this? Yeah, create an atmosphere, an enjoyable atmosphere for the soul. That is that it doesn't experience torment. The spirit is separated from the perfect will of God. First and foremost, that spirit has to be reborn. The physical act first has to be, let me see, how can I say? The soul has to be separated from the physical connection of the body. The physical connection of that atmosphere. The soul has to be disconnected from the physical atmosphere. The soul has to be disconnected from the physical atmosphere, which means the soul has to be born again. So, if the Spirit of God or the perfect will is able to enter and become one and the same, let's say like if you have a preacher or something preaching about whatever, you at this point with hearing this person preach, you know instantly within yourself if it's of like 100% good or a falsified goodness. And let's say like when you're hearing them preach, you hear the 100% purity of good. It fulfills all areas of fear and torment. It destroys all areas of fear and torment. It gives you a peace that passes understanding. And if you experience that person is preaching and he's giving this off, you are at a place where your soul can separate from the physical atmosphere. Now you have control. That's the breathalyzer, or that's the very breath of Jesus. That's what Jesus did. Set that soul free from the physical atmosphere. The physical atmosphere is where Satan rules. Take a note of this. When Jesus was walking the earth, and Satan approached him. This is when Jesus was in the wilderness, and Jesus was walking, being led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by Satan. Whatever, he had to go through this for our sake. We'll get into that maybe in this discussion, maybe another discussion. But anyway, he's being tempted by Satan in all manner of different things. And one of the first things that he attempt Jesus to be or to do is to reveal himself. If you're God, turn this stone into bread.